This tutorial deals with dropping chroma, or color, if you will, the saturation of color out of an image to go through and turn it black and white. We'll also be talking about some cropping and compositional issues with this image as well. This is a photograph taken of the cliffs that are near my home in Hurricane. This is the Gooseberry Mesa up in this area for those of you who mountain bike, have an idea where this is at. And this was a sunset evening, one of the shorter days in December. We were out four-wheeling around and stopped to take this image. I have some issues with this image, not the least of which is this horizon line, which I'll get to as we crop this. But the main thing I want to do is turn this more into a black and white piece, but maintain the impact that I'm seeing with these highlights on these bluffs and cliffs going on through here, and yet maintain some detail that's happening within the scrub in front of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is work my tools over here. We've talked about these before, but let me demonstrate these for you very quickly. First, I have exposure. Exposure, I can compensate exposure by going up to 3 stops underexposed and 3 stops overexposed if my exposure needs that. This one does not need that. Contrast, I can increase contrast all the way up or all the way down. You see how even that contrast is, and you see how spiky that contrast is there. And in saturation, I can increase color saturation, making them pop and go otherworldly, or I can pull saturation all the way down. That's what we're going to be doing for this exercise that way. Let me go through and revert everything back to original on this so we have a baseline to begin with. I will also be working with the shadow tool on this, and I might be working definition and sharpness as well, just to go through and bring the image up to where I want it to be. The first thing I want to do, though, because I will be working in black and white with this, is to drop the chroma or the saturation of this. Now, if there were people in this shot, I could go through and avoid saturating or desaturating skin tones because the software detects what is organic and what isn't. Here, though, no people, I'm not going to worry about that. And I'm going to drop saturation out completely. I'm taking it down to 0. And you see what's happened here is, first off, I've lost a lot of the contrast that was induced by the color of the image, okay? And I want to gain some of that back, but now I have basically a black and white image. And I'm going to take my, let's see, what should I do first? I'm going to go to contrast first, and I'm going to bring up the contrast. And in doing so, pretty dramatically here. So I have a lot of difference in exposure between what's happening here and what's happening here with these highlights. Now, a lot of this is going a little inky black for me, and so I'm going to go to my shadows tool, and I'm going to bring that up just a little bit and even that out just a touch. I could probably go just a little bit more contrast. I hope you can see how subtle that is and what's going on. Yeah, and that's working for me right in there, probably a little right about there. I like what's happening with maintaining the detail through this. I'm going to pull up the sharpness of that a little bit more just to make that those things kind of pop there. Yeah, and that seems to be working. I don't think there's much I can do with highlights here. Highlights deals with more on the chroma side of the scale, so I'm going to leave that out. So far, I'm liking what I've got. I'm going to go now and just edit this down and get rid of this huge highlight as far as the sky is concerned. So for iPhoto, I'm just going to go into quick fixes, and there pops up the crop feature. There are also other tools here that we'll get to in other tutorials. I'm going to hit the crop feature, and I have these crop handles that come up, and I'm going to move them down. You see as I do so, if I bring this real small, you could see this is a rule of thirds grid. You see the intersections that are happening there on the crosshatches. And the idea of the rule of thirds in composition is we want to put those crosshatches where our center of interest would be within the photograph, at least one of them. And so I'm going to deal with the crosshatch right here that deals with this hotspot here. Maybe something over here. We'll see how this, oh, maybe both of them. We'll just split it and put it in there. And I'm going to pull down the sky just a little bit more within this. Now, obviously, working on file size is going to impact the pixelation or the clarity of this. If I recall, this is a relatively big file, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. I like where that's at. I'm going to hit done, and it's going to go through and set that up for me. And that's the image that I'm looking for. That's what I'd like to see. For some reason, iPhoto doesn't give me a full resolution of this when I'm editing. When I go out of editing, if I advance to the next image, which is a duplicate of this one, once it saves it, then it goes back to the clarity that I'm looking for. Now, to show you the difference here with the tools that I've used, if I revert to original, you see I'm going to lose the chroma and I'm going to lose the cropping, and we'll lose the shadow detail that we were working with before. We'll take it back, and that's what we started with. So that's working with pulling out the chroma or pulling out the saturation, as well as doing a little bit of cropping to go through and enhance the photograph.